I'm checking my references, my reference over here, wherever it is, this guy. I know that all in here is in shadow. But I also know that I want pretty much the whole thing to be brown. I just want to make sure that my highlights, any highlights that are actually going to be white, are going to stay white. But right now we are painting so light, and the leaf is going to get pretty dark by the end, that we don't really need to worry. Just feather your work a little bit so that, dance it around so that you have a little bit of gap. You don't want a solid cover from one side to the next. Make sure there's gaps here and there. And it's pretty wet, so you can see that because it's wet, it smooths right out. If it was any thicker, we would end up with little footprints, like up here. But because the water and the paint is so thin, we don't have that. And again, in here, I have the vein lines, so I'm going to leave some of those white. Let's bring a little bit up here. Now, I will eventually show you guys how to do some dry brushing, because we're definitely going to need some dry brushing on this when we're all done. If there's any dots, we're going to lift them out. I might do a little bit of lifting at the end. That's possible. But I tend not to do lifting. I tend to leave those spaces and just kind of blend them a little bit, but not actually lift them out. So there's another technique I will show you. Instead of doing actual lifting where you put your paint down and then use a thirsty brush to pull the paint back up. Problem with lifting is that it's not always good on all paper. And if you're like my girlfriend, whose paper you can't really get wet, you definitely can't lift. You even think about lifting and the paper freaks out and rolls up on you. It's bad. Yeah, and she's like, what are you talking about? Caitlin, you know I'm talking about you, don't you? You gotta give that girl some paper. I keep threatening to give her Arches paper for Christmas. I don't know how many times I've said that now. I'm gonna get you some Arches paper for Christmas. And she says, no! Then I'll never go back. I'm like, what's wrong with that? I can't afford Arches paper. She can't, of course. She's just being silly. So the first layer has dried, and I just wanted to lift that up so I can show you guys, because I kind of did it without explaining it. And here's our little dude here. Okay, so this is all dry, and that's all dry. Now, because we have this unifying color amongst the leaf, it's looking much, much better. So I don't know how it looks to you, but it looks pretty good for me. We're going to do it up here. And here again, we have a lot of brown. There's a little bit of green, so maybe we'll leave some of the spots for green. Now, this is a ridge. So that side, right, is the mountain going down. And the other side is the mountain going the other way. There's a ridge right there in the middle. So I'm going to go nice and close. And then let's do the same thing on this ridge. Just kind of filling it in. Look, think, study, paint. Paint what you see. I know, we don't actually see stripes like that over here, do we? But we do see these shadowy areas, so I just want to get this down as like as a base coat. Similar to this yellow. In fact, on the yellow, let's come in again. Because we've got these shadowy areas. I think I'm doing the shadows on the wrong side, but oh well. So these are going to be highlights, not shadows. Isn't that funny? So I'm doing the shadow, or what one would imagine to be the shadow, but over here, the shadow is actually on this side of the leaf, and I'm painting it on that side. But, what I'm actually going to do is I'm painting the mid-tone on this side, and later I'll paint something darker back here. See? It all blends together, or fits somewhere, somehow. So let's come in there, maybe a little bit up there. There. want to lift out some of this so I don't get a hard edge right there. Come back with some water. And that way this is going to blend. And oh, isn't that pretty? Okay, let's do the same thing here. Now, where's the ridge? The ridge is there, right? I can't really see if there's a pencil line, so we're going to take it out here. So this is lifting, but this is just lifting. It's blending. We're feathering. Well, not really feathering. We're just blending. Blending it in. What I want to do is make sure that little bit of white between these colors stays white. And here. You don't have too much water. This is why you need a paper towel around. And that one, this crisp line is okay, but this underline I don't want. Again here, crisp line okay at the top, underline don't want. Because that crisp line at the top, that's going to act as my, as the cell or part of the leaf, you know, one of the veins in the leaf. Now, depending on the quality of the paper and the quality of your paint and how hard you push, you can layer on top of old layers over and over and over and over. It will not blend. It will not bleed. I heard somebody say that recently and I almost choked on my tea. It will not blend. You do not have to. It won't bleed. You don't have to worry. Just go for it. Have fun. And even if it does, this is about experimenting, right? We're just doing a practice. So I've lifted up this part, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Put a little bit of water on there. See, that's a lot of water, and it's not bleeding. But I'm coming back with my brush, and I'm lifting it. I mean, if I want to do it really slow, you could even say, maybe do it as a twirl to really lift it. Then I rub it off here on the paper towel. Again, and you can see the paint is coming out. Okay, and then here, same thing. So at this point, if you guys want to fast forward, feel free to do that. You do not have to stick around. And you can watch YouTube videos in fast forward. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I really need to start saying it in every video. So go down to the bottom right corner of the screen that you're looking at, so down there, and there's one of those little gear symbols, the thing you'd have turning inside a clock. And click on that, and it'll tell you what quality of image you want. If it's going to be low quality or super high quality, you can watch this in HD if you want. Just change it to get a better picture if your picture's not crisp enough, because I film it in really good quality. And then also speed. You can slow me down so I'm very, very, very boring. Or you can speed me up so I sound like a chipmunk. Feel free. If I speak too fast, slow me down. If you want to speed through the video and still listen without clicking forward, just change the speed. Now, it will affect all of your videos, and you'll just have to go back to that setting and click it back to your normal speed. In other words, when you watch this video and you click to the next video, it'll still be going faster or slower, which can be fun and kind of weird if you forget and your favorite person is talking like a chipmunk. So again, we're just lifting that yellow off. Now, I could have painted it like that originally. I could have not put those big splotches of yellow on there in the first place. But, you know, sometimes it's fun to just put the color where you want it and then work it in later. Why go to all that trouble? in other cases, it's fun to go to all that trouble. It's totally, you know, each to their own, right? But that's a really good example of lifting. Oop. Now, this part is going to be green on top of that brown. So this is going to be yellow-ish brown. Here we've got some green. This is really like a nice olivey green. Let's put the olive green. And my paper is pretty good. It's not taped down. It's 300 gram GSM, which means 300 grams per square meter. This obviously doesn't weigh 300 grams. Okay, what am I looking for? Olive green. Olive green. Do we have olive green? No. That's yellow green. Olive green is over here. That one. Yes. Yes. Aha! It's pretty dark. Okay, and then we have chrome oxide, which is chrome oxide green. And this is a Schminke number 512. It is such a pale green. It's pretty close to this. Yeah, okay. So let me show you what that looks like. So this one is chrome oxide green. I can see that too. Yeah, that's not bad for like some of those tones. We're not looking for one color to do everything. We're looking for multiple colors to really build it in. But that's a pretty good option. And the other one I just grabbed was olive green. So if I show you what that looks like, pretty much straight. It's really, really dark. But when we add water, let's add clean water. Okay, so we can go to a lighter color. Now on that, it's a really blue. If you can't see that, sometimes it's good to really stare at colors. Get a whole bunch of colors and figure it out that way and just look at them for a while and go, okay, does this look more orange or does this look more blue? Does it look more purple? Does it look more red? This definitely looks more blue. I don't know how it looks for you guys, but it's got a real blue olivey color to it, which makes sense. It's called olive green. So I want to warm it up. I'm going to add a little burnt sienna right here on the paper, and we're going to see what that does. And see, that instantly warms it up. Actually makes more of a brown. Let's add some more water. Aha! Oh, that's a nice color. Okay, so just adding some burnt sienna, burnt umber, and look, I've completely changed it from a blue green to a red green, or to a brown green, which is actually a red green, right? So over here, I'm going to take out the olive green, and then a little bit of burnt umber. If you guys haven't noticed yet, I really like burnt umber. It's a very beautiful brown. Makes beautiful grays. Add some more water to that. So I want to add the water and then I want to pull it out. Let's do that under here. So we're going to mix it. Now I've just done it here, but I'll do it again. So we've got our olive green. All right, and then I'm going to take the brush and twirl it in order to take that extra paint off. And I do this really quickly, so, but for you, I'm going to do it. There we go. Oh, you really got that off. Now, if you want, you could clean the brush, preferably not in your clean water. Then dry your brush. And the reason why I like to dry my brush after I wet it is because it ensures that the color is out. It'll take out any last bits of color. Now I want to come in with, what did I say? Burnt umber. And now I'm going to mix the two. And you want to mix them in the middle. So you're pulling from that and pulling from this. Don't just throw all of that right in here. Just pull in the middle, see what it looks like. Now, it would help at this point if I had more room, so I could show you. Okay. So we're mixing them together, and then we're going to pull it out. Now we're going to pick up the May green in there too, but that'll just blend right in because it's way too light. So, the two darks, mixing them together. And then I'm adding water down here. So now I can come back and I can take the dark green, the dark brown, or any of the variations in the center, and this lighter version will be down here. And maybe for the fun of it, let's put some of that lemon yellow in down here. And now look at all the different ones. We have this color, this color, this color, that color, that color, and that color. All from two colors. And I don't have to remix these because I'm working on such a small space. Hold on. What's... I have a little spot there. Since I'm working in such a small space, we don't have to remix because I don't need that much. So I can now scoop out little bits. Anyway, it's just a cool tip. Nice and simple. How I mix my paints. Now I do that super fast. So practice, 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 practice. Let's come back over here. And let's check our paper before I put this color down. So we've got that, that, and that. These are the three main colors we just made. I said they're pretty good. So using whatever's on my brush at the moment, let's add some color in here. I'm pretty sure, yes, it's a little yellowy green from the bottom. This one. And I'm going to just give it a little bit of texture. I'm going to do a little bit of stippling, tiny, tiny tip stippling back there, maybe here too, to blend it in. And let's do the same thing here. These are, what do I call them? Dot lines, plus stippling. Because it's kind of going everywhere. We're not really in a perfect line. I'm just going to continue that down here. We'll get to this part in a minute. Okay, that looks really nice, doesn't it? Now, right down the tip, we've got more color in there. That is not so much of the brown, but I think there's a little more. No, there is brown, isn't there? It's like an orangey brown. So let's come back. And this time I'm going to put some little markeries in this way. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I flattened my brush. I did it super fast. You see that? The brush is flat. It goes from here to here. So you take the brush and give it a little wiggle, and it's going to flatten out. And then with that flat brush, you can paint just with the ends. If I pick up something darker, and we can get a dry brush effect depending on how much water there's on there. So how I'm doing it, again, I put the brush down, give it a good wiggle so everything comes apart, See how it's really fat now? Lift it back up. Don't worry, you're not going to destroy your brush doing this. It's absolutely not a problem. And then just draw it on. Essentially, you're making your very own fan brush out of any brush you have, and it's super tiny. So doing that, I'm going to come in here. And this would be a great time to start thinking about rotating my picture. And I just add a little bit of detail. Now, this detail I'm adding now, and if you're thinking, why are you adding the detail already? You're nowhere near the point where we want detail. It's because I want this detail to be locked into the page. So some of it will lift off, of course, as I do my other layers, but other bits will stay. Which is why I'm not doing, I'm not paying so much attention and trying to make it perfect. I'm just kind of throwing it on there. And I want to make sure that I give a broken line here. I don't want that to be too solid because, of course, the leaf is all jagged on the edges. Definitely not solid. And now I'm going to feather that out. Now don't worry about the colors underneath. We're not going in there and we're not lifting them, the layers underneath. We're just putting this on top. So when you do go over them, go really gently. Okay, let's bring it across here. And I'm going to go really close on this vein. And I also want to do the same thing. I just want negative paint up to the edge of the vein so that I can close it almost completely. And we'll come back and paint it a different color later. This way I get a really good fine vein. Okay, now I'm going to come in with some water and just blend it out on the outside there. Here too. And I'm going over, do you notice that? I'm going over these white spots. That's okay, because they are now, the highlights are in there. And forevermore, this stuff will be darker than those light spots. So I want to cover them up, because the leaf doesn't actually have any white on it. And you're going to see how it's going to, and now we'll see it all come together. On the other side. If you want to change something and lift it, then rub. But if you don't want to lift off the layer below, don't rub. Like here, I do want to lift off the layer below because it's got a little point. And I want that hard edge to be way down here. So I'm way down here now. I'm just going to add a little more. It's all wet because I just went over it and I covered it with a little bit of water, that dirty water. So now when I'm going over like this, I'm dropping in this color. It's going to spread nice and even. I don't want to go over top of the yellow too much, but I do want to get it a little more uniformed in the top coats. And I think we're going to have to add a little more yellow into it. And let's come down here and drop more color into the edge of that bottom vein. Okay, I'm going to do a nice even stipple. More dab. Originally I said the bottom is lighter, but I am going to paint it right now a little darker. And we'll see if it stays that way. I think I want to close a few of these little gaps. And now it's still wet, but I'm going to dab even darker green up here. Right up there. And I know you're probably thinking, what are you doing? The paper is not completely dry. Paper is getting drier, but it's not completely dry. But that's okay, because I do not follow the rule that says you must never paint wet paint on top of wet paint or wet paint on drying paint. I don't know who came up with these rules. I know why they say them, but it's just not the case. Have fun, paint whatever you want. I do not need to let the layers dry completely before putting on the next layer. I can just keep going, just like you see here. And the two layers will blend and mix in interesting ways. That is what I want. So down here, I think I will continue that green up here a little bit. And I'll come back with just a little bit of water to smooth this side out. Now the key here is don't make a bubble. Don't make a puddle. Okay, no actual water drops. So I put the water down and I lifted it up pretty much as soon as I put it down. I also did not lift it up hard. There was no rubbing or scrubbing involved. It's just a very light, completely across the surface, not even really touching the paper. Just touching the water. I'm going to do the same thing over here to blend this. Put that water in. Now I got runbacks, right? Because I just added in water. But the runbacks are going out, and I'm taking my brush and pushing them back and sucking it out with a thirsty brush. So I won't end up with cauliflowers.